In this video we are going to talk about mysterious shark attacks. So before starting this video, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future updates. In 2010, a series of brutal shark attacks terrified Sharm-generally Elsheikh's tranquil beaches. Sharks seriously injured 4 tourists and mauled a 5th to death during the course of 10 days, all of the incidents taking place along the shoreline. Experts couldn't explain why the sharks launched repeated attacks so close to shore because the attacks were so vicious. Despite the fact that no further bloody attacks have been reported, the motivation for the brutal attacks remains a mystery, casting a pall over the once lovely holiday spot. Can we get any closer to understanding why the sharks attacked by recounting the events that occurred at Sharm Elsheikh and attempting to reflect on the assaults retrospectively? More significantly, should we be concerned that they may strike again? To address these issues, we must first comprehend what occurred at Egypt's most popular resort. The assaults. 3 international snorkelers were attacked on the 30th and 1st of December in 2010 and suffered terrible injuries and mutilation. An oceanic white-tip, 1, shark was first implicated for the assaults, followed by another of the same species and a mako shark, 2. The Environment and Tourism Ministries responded by closing diving spots near Sharm el-Sheikh and beginning a large-scale shark hunt. The animals suspected of being involved were caught, and the coastline was proclaimed safe. An elderly German visitor was killed by a shark attack a few days later. This situation sounds eerily similar to the narrative of the 1975 blockbuster Jaws, which terrorized seaside moviegoers for years. These occurrences, however, were real and cannot be attributed to a horde of deranged sharks who went on a killing spree and developed a craving for human flesh. Despite the fact that both species suspected of carrying out the attacks are considered a threat to humans, they only strike seldom, with only 16 reported human attacks worldwide since records began. This rash of attacks is unusual, stated Richard Pierce, chairman of the Shark Trust and the Shark Conservation Society. They don't go around assaulting people for enjoyment, and they don't look for humans to eat. They are not generally seen close to shore, as their oceanic name suggests, they enjoy the broad ocean. This suggests that they must have been drawn inshore by some sort of trigger, and that they have been assaulting humans on a regular basis. With the amount of influence people have on the ecosystem these days, the trigger was certainly something we did carelessly. Sheep are to blame. Many explanations were proposed by the experts and marine biologists who were flown in to investigate the situation. The most likely theory proposed was that they were the result of sheep carcasses being dumped in the water. Large quantities of dead sheep were allegedly dumped in the Mediterranean after dying while en route to Egypt from Australia. Despite the fact that Australia's livestock export manager stated that no Australian livestock vessels passed by in the 10 to 14-day period to his knowledge, witnesses claimed they observed the carcasses being discarded in the sea. The carcasses, according to the hypothesis, served as bait for the sharks, causing them to approach the coast and come into touch with the victims. Tourists are to blame. Even though it is illegal to do so, some tour operators have been known to throw shark bait into the water in order to lure sharks closer to boats in the hopes that they will allow their customers to get a better view of the animals. This is especially the case during glass-bottom boat tours, which take tourists out on the water to look for fish for the day. In addition, locals claim that dive schools will sometimes feed sharks to their students as part of their diving instruction in an effort to impress customers and win business from other dive schools in the area. It is believed that the practice, which is referred to as chumming, can alter marine ecosystems and lead sharks to associate humans with food, which could result in attacks on humans. The culprit here is hunger. There are local environmentalists who subscribe to the view that the sharks were simply hungry, and they advocate for an alternative theory. The contention is that excessive fishing in the open ocean depleted fish stocks, which sharks depend on for their survival. As a result, sharks were compelled to move closer to land in search of an alternative source of nutrition. Any degradation to the ecosystem of the local reef would not necessarily affect the oceanic white-tip shark because it is outside of its natural habitat, says Ian Ferguson, a shark biologist with the UK conservation group Shark Trust. However, this could point to a larger issue of general offshore fishing of tuna and other big fish, whittling down and influencing the food chain, therefore, disrupting the shark's ecosystem, says Ferguson. This could point to a larger. The blame should fall on the man. The experts were unable to identify a single factor that contributed to the attacks, and we, unfortunately, are unable to do so either. Despite this, we are able to draw the conclusion that the attacks were not the result of a random occurrence of sharks acting erratically, but rather a combination of factors that were caused by humans. Overfishing, illegal dumping, and chumming, as well as exceptionally high temperatures as a result of global warming, and a large number of tourists have all contributed to the extraordinary attacks. It is not acceptable to kill sharks, not only because they are a valuable resource for the country but also because they play an essential role in the ecosystem of the ocean. 1/3 of the world's open water shark species are on the verge of extinction, as reported by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, which estimates that 30 million to 70 million sharks are killed in fisheries each year. The specialists offered some advice in the hope of preventing further attacks of this kind. These included an immediate halt to the practice of shark culling, the enforcement of feeding bans on marine life, the provision of environmental and emergency training to all diving personnel, crew, and beach staff, the raising of environmental awareness among tourists and the general public, and the enforcement of existing laws against illegal fishing. If the government adopts these recommendations and puts them into action, it is extremely unlikely that such heinous attacks will be carried out again. According to the International Shark Attack File, the number of unprovoked shark attacks has been steadily rising over the course of the past century, with each decade recording more attacks than the one before it. This is despite the fact that maritime restrictions have become increasingly strict, ISAF. This ought to serve as a reminder that the waters are the natural habitat of the sharks, and that humans are merely passing through their territory. We will never be able to make the ocean completely risk-free for humans, but we can significantly lessen the likelihood of terrifying encounters with sharks if we stay out of their natural habitat as much as possible. Michelle Von Emster was a California resident who was 25 years old when she died of a shark attack on April 14, 1994. The official cause of death for Michelle Von Emster is not yet known. She was born on August 2, 1968. She passed away on the evening of April 14, 1994, approximately 25 miles off the coast of San Diego, California. The next morning, her body was found exposed, with her right leg severed from her thigh, multiple broken bones, and other injuries. Her right arm was also broken in several places. The investigation led the team to the conclusion that a great white shark had attacked her. However, a number of specialists maintain that her wounds cannot have been caused by a shark attack, and others have hypothesized that she may have been murdered or that she died after falling from the nearby Sunset Cliffs. On April 14, around 8 o'clock in the evening, Von Emster was last seen in San Diego. She was wearing a green trench coat and carrying a purse, which was found the following day along a busy stretch of beach. Her purse was found along the beach. This sighting was helpful in developing a schedule for her last few hours of life based on the available information. On April 15, 1994, early in the morning, 2 local surfers discovered a body floating face down in kelp near Sunset Cliffs Natural Park and Beach in San Diego. The body was found by the surfers. After the body was discovered and brought to the San Diego lifeguard headquarters, an official investigation was started into what happened to it. At the time of her discovery, Michelle Von Emster was only wearing jewelry and had been found in her naked state. During his examination of the body, the medical examiner Robert Engel commented that there were large, tearing-type wounds with missing flesh. The lower portion of Michelle's right leg, from the thigh down to the ankle, has been severed. According to Engel, Von Emster had not been in the water for a considerable amount of time. At first, the official cause of death was recorded as unknown, but there was widespread speculation that a shark attack was to blame. On April 16, 1994, San Diego medical examiner Brian Blackburn carried out a proper autopsy on the deceased individual. According to the official report, Michelle's right leg was severed from the thigh down. Her right foot was also missing. In addition to those injuries, Von Emster suffered a broken neck, shattered ribs, a broken pelvis, as well as scrapes and contusions to her face and torso. Sand was discovered in significant quantities not only in her mouth and lungs but also in her throat and stomach as well. According to the findings of the autopsy, Michelle was still alive when her injuries were inflicted, and she would have needed to take a significant breath or gulp for all of the sand to make its way inside of her. Blackburn speculated that a shark may have been responsible for the death of Michelle. It is important to point out, however, that neither Blackburn nor anyone else who observed the body had ever performed an autopsy on a person who had been the victim of a shark attack. What should you do if you run into a hungry shark? Adapted from Ian Ferguson's essays as a shark biologist and patron of the Shark Trust. Your initial goal is to avoid coming into contact with a shark at all costs. Avoid river mouths and estuaries, as well as regions frequented by seagulls and dolphins or seals. Swimming in these locations is akin to entering a lion's cage and walking over to his food, only to be mauled by the lion. Stay close to the shore on the beach side of the reefs. The depth can swiftly drop from 10 to 500 meters on the seaward side. To keep sharks at bay, always snorkel in groups. Avoid swimming in waters with low visibility, and avoid going in before dawn or after twilight, when sharks are most active. It doesn't matter what color you're wearing, to a shark, you're just a silhouette. Avoid strong colors like orange and yellow, as well as flashy jewelry that may resemble fish scales. Sharks can perceive contrast quite well. If you have an open wound, do not snorkel or swim, and if you cut your foot on the reef, get out of the water right once. If you happen to be in the company of a shark, you should keep it in sight as you move quickly and smoothly towards the shore without making a loud splash or causing a commotion. Notice how it acts. Change tactics if its posture is tight and its mouth opens and closes as it swims towards you. This could be because it thinks you're a dolphin, you're in its territory, or it's curious. Be rude, playing dead won't cut it here. Use whatever weapons you have at your disposal to defend yourself, and try to avoid using your hands or feet if at all possible. If not, aim for the most sensitive areas, such as the gills and eyes, then hit and kick with all your might. Never give up. Continue pummeling the shark's eyes and gills until you die or the shark flees. If you cause the shark enough trouble, it will eventually give up and seek out something easier to eat. What do you think about this video? Do let us know down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from us again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.